Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those that you don't know, 10 for the Chairman is a show where I take 10 questions from our subscribers and answer them to the best of my ability. Questions obviously about Star Citizen. And the subscribers are the subset of our community that contribute money every month to allow us to do an enhanced amount of community content. So behind the scenes stuff, like the Jump Point magazine, which is 50 to 70 pages of very detailed how we built this ship, how we put together this demo, with some fiction pieces and backgrounders on various parts of the Star Citizen galaxy. Around the Verse, which is a sort of combined sort of news show talking about things that are happening in the game and things that you guys out there are doing. This show, 10 for the Chairman, inside CIG pieces where we sort of do a more in-depth, okay, well, this is the team or this is the system we're working on. And some other stuff that we're planning coming up, and as well as some sort of fun things subscribers get, like flair for the hangers. So there was a drinking cabinet that I think people liked. And there will actually be running around drunk from drinking too much in the near future. So this week is a shortened week in our American offices because Thanksgiving is on the Thursday. So we just have 3 days, but the rest of the teams in other areas like the UK and up in Canada will be working through the week because we've got our heads down working really hard to try and get 1.0 for you guys by the end of the year. And on top of that, we've got a few other things that we're working for next year, which is the first-person shooter side of action, plus some planet-side stuff that will be earlier next year, and obviously Squadron 42 a little later, and the multi-crew ship stuff. So we're all hard at work here. We kicked off the anniversary sale of the end of the initial crowdfund of Star Citizen this Friday. And it's going very well, so thank you all out there. I mean, I would like to reiterate that the sales are much more about sort of contributing to additional funds so we can continue to make the game at the level that we're making it, because it's a level of fidelity that when I first launched the crowdfunding campaign, I didn't think I'd be able to attain until much further down the road. If the game was successful and loads of people were playing it, we'd have enough money to be doing a lot of the features that we're actually doing right now. So I think this coming year, everyone's going to be quite happy and quite blown away with just the level of sort of fidelity and detail and things that you can do and how they'll all interact. So something like the anniversary sale is sort of a fun way to continue for us to be like ridiculously ambitious about what we're doing, and we sort of have some fun opportunities of some ships that we don't normally always have out there. But like I said, all you need is your base $40 ship, and you can do this and earn it all in the game. So you don't have to. It's completely a voluntary thing, and we'll have a reveal of the character later on this week, which I think you guys will also like, because it's a dedicated explorer and it's got some really cool features and stuff. And as always, we sort of added up bigger than our initial thought of the stats, which maybe we should stop doing, but we keep on seeming to make our ships bigger all the time. Anyway, let's get to the questions, okay? So here we go. First question comes from Tulis, who asks, have you considered handling the capture of criminal player characters in a similar fashion to the death mechanic? Maybe after being arrested a number of times, or if the crimes are great enough, the player character will be sentenced to life in prison. Yeah, I mean, the capture of the criminal players stuff is something that we've discussed. So we have discussed the idea that, like, if you get captured multiple times, perhaps it's more and more difficult to escape the prison. And perhaps even after a certain time, if you get captured too many times, then yeah, you're in life in prison and you've got to like go on to your next character, or even if there was someone that had the death sentence, then perhaps they would execute you for doing too many murders as an assassin or whatever it would be. So we've discussed that. That's kind of one of those things when we get all the PU systems in and working, like bounty hunting and all the rest of the stuff, that we're working on systems, and we will be sharing, like we just shared, the sort of healing of a spaceman mechanic that we've talked about, which is much more about the specific sort of first-person damage that you would take on your character, and how we're sort of approaching it in a slightly different way than we normally do in a first-person game. Then we'll share some of these things as we will go along, which I think you guys will like, because we're trying to do something different. I think ultimately our goal is to, we've been kicking it around a little bit here, but what we're sort of thinking, rather than call Star Citizen a space sim, because it's a lot of things. It's a first-person shooter, and it's a space sim in the traditional sense that you use to fly ships around and fight with each other, and then it's a sort of trading and an economy game, and then it has a single player. We're thinking of it as a first-person universe. So Star Citizen is a first-person universe, and you can pretty much go and do all these different things and visit all these different places in this universe in an incredibly high amount of detail in first person. And it just so happens that one of the biggest things you can do is fly ships around, but you're there, you're in it. So so all that would be part of helping create the mechanics. All right, next question comes from Drum. Will corpses in FPS have hitboxes, which in effect would allow them to use as shields? No, definitely. Dead bodies or ragdolls tend to be what they call in FPS. Have their own collision geometry, and they will get hit and absorb bullets. So therefore, if you get behind one or use one as cover, it can be used as a shield. Next question comes from Steve J, who asks, after a difficult mission where you barely got back alive and have spent all of your credits fixing up your ship, what do you do if you don't have enough credits left to refuel your ship? Are there going to be missions that will not require your own ship? Well, this sort of goes to the mechanic of, okay, you don't have enough money to do certain things, whether it's repair your ship or, in this case, refuel, but then at this point you're being pretty dashed straight. So there's two things we're thinking about doing, is allowing players to be able to take a certain amount of a loan out that they would have to pay back, sort of, kind of a loan sharky thing. And then, although you can't infinitely do that, obviously. And then the other one is that if you've lost your ship and you just don't have, and you want to get back into the game, and you've got to earn it back, and you're just going to do everything in game, then we're going to have the ability for players to accept paying jobs from other NPCs or other players to do things like be a pilot or do more menial jobs. So, you're probably not going to make the sort of money that you would if you owned your own ship, but, you could make some money as a hired hand flying someone else's ship and earn enough of that to be able to get your ship out of hock or to get it repaired or to get some fuel. And so that's kind of the base that we sort of feel like, if you go down and, you can't really get your stuff up and running again, you've got to go and work for someone else, which is kind of what happens in the real world. So, that is our plan. Next question comes from Nostromo 1977. That's a pretty good reference, although I did think Alien was in 1979. But as the European Space Agency's Rosetta spacecraft and Philae lander made history, this begs the question, can players expect to see comets flying around in Star Citizen? Furthermore, has CAG ever considered an ice harvesting mechanic for comets and or ice fields? Well, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have things like comets as part of our sort of celestial comets, not comics, by the way, it's our celestial body that you can see, and there probably will be maybe some kind of interesting sort of mining or harvesting mechanic with them, because they would be a more interesting or a more difficult place to extract from. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff that we're thinking of doing on a universe basis in terms of different terrain and space, and how you make money or earn money, or how you sort of mine stuff, whether it's minerals or gathering fuel and stuff like that. So I think comets could fall into that category. Next question comes from Green Man, who asks, in regards to the loss of limb and replace it with a cybernetic arm mechanic, if I have a cybernetic arm and an enemy throws an EMP grenade at me, would I lose control of my arm? That's actually a pretty good question. I would think that if you're EMP'd and you have a cybernetic arm, then there's a good chance that your cybernetic arm will sort of be out of action for a brief period of time, like a stun grenade. Although we haven't implemented that yet, but I would think that was what would make sense in those situations. Next question comes from Sajuk, who asks, with the introduction of the 315p, one of the things I've been looking at has been the tractor beam. Will we be able to manipulate our environments to better suit us in combat? For example, can we tow asteroids into different positions or launch slingshot debris at our enemies? Well, the tractor beam, which isn't implemented yet, is going to have a control grab mechanic, and it will sort of make whatever you're hauling with the tractor beam be a connected rigid body to your ship. And so you should be able to sort of treat it like dragging around a piece of mass. So I don't know the strength and the power of it. I'm not sure what size of asteroid it could actually be able to allow you to move or do stuff with. But assuming that there's one that you can grab hold of with the tractor beam, you should be able to fly your ship around and drag around the asteroid. And then release it, so you'll give it some velocity and give it a trajectory if you want to. So potentially I could see people using a certain amount of the tractor beam in kind of interesting ways for combat. So it'll all be physically simulated correctly. So I mean, essentially what a tractor beam is like sort of this virtual rope that goes around and attaches onto something, and then you can pull it towards you, or if you start moving around, it's obviously connected to you. But of course, there'll be limits of like how big of an object or how much mass you can pull and all that kind of stuff. Okay, next question comes from Vertice, spelled V-E-R-T-I-S-C-E, so I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. Will beds still have a functional purpose in the persistent universe? What about toilets and showers? Will they be used for anything more than interactive decoration in the ship? Or will they provide a specific benefit for gameplay? Well, we've talked about beds being used as sort of a save point when you're flying around in space. So when you go to your bed and there's no enemies around in a a certain kind of navigation area or point in space that we consider safe, then that is considered a save point, like saving down on, say, like a planet. So that's where you can come back and start in that area. So that was kind of one of the things that we've talked about. We have the toilets and showers. I know everyone loves them, so I've been kind of toying around on a design set. I haven't made a decision yet on it, but I was kind of thinking it was sort of a lightweight way to make all these things make a little bit of sense. So, in terms of relevance to the gameplay. So, like you probably need to sleep occasionally, or else you're going to get tired, and after too long you may not be able to function as well, or occasionally you'll need to eat, or if you don't take a shower, perhaps some NPCs won't want to talk to you because you smell. I mean, I'm not saying we go to the level of like full life simulation, but it would be fun to have some kind of really lightweight sense that some of these things that you can do for these sort of decorative immersive have some meaning. I mean, like one of my goals is to sort of make Star Citizen itself, the universes you adventure around in, be a lot more than just about dogfighting in space, or even being able to haul lots of cargo and make money. So I want you to sightsee. I want you to go to different planets and locations, and we build some beautiful stuff. I want there to be a restaurant on Terra that's on like the big sky sphere, and at the top of it, it's like the amazing view, like eating on the top of the Empire State Building or something. And it's a really tough reservation to get, and you manage to get it, and so you get your way to Terra and get in there, and you're up there, and they serve you some food, and it's all kind of a bit decorative. It's like drinking the drink from the drinks cabinet and the flair stuff, but it's all a sense of doing and achieving things, and that's almost like, okay, well, I do that, I get my little signed menu or something from the chef that I can put back in my hangar, and it's like one of my mementos of where I went. So there's a level of like doing stuff around the universe that I want to kind of have moments that aren't just always about like the traditional stuff, which is combat and maybe the trading stuff, and to give a sense of world. So I think in a lightweight way, then we probably would think of maybe having some benefits as far as it goes. So I mean, if you wanted to go all the way, you could make food just be another resource you have to manage, right? So if you don't eat every now and then your vision gets dizzy. I'm not sure if we're going to go that far, but we're kind of thinking of some lightweight ways to make it sort of fun and make things you can do on the planet have a bit more meaning, or things you can visit have a bit more meaning. So that's not a full answer, but you can kind of sort of see where I'm thinking and how to make this world sort of feel more real to everyone. Okay, next question comes from Amigo, who asks, what kind of mechanics do you have in mind for science, and how do you see science being profitable, interesting? And also, how big of an impact can we expect our science to have on the verse at large? Okay, well, that's a fairly sort of that's a big question to answer. I don't necessarily see science as an individual thing. I mean, we've talked about having sort of like a science ship, which is more about sort of exploration and discovering or breaking down things. scanning things. So, you know, whether it would be finding an alien artifact or, you know, figuring out how to break down some Jean technology so you could do something with it, like on your ship or whatever. That's kind of what we're sort of thinking of science, if you're thinking in terms of a science ship or something. So there's not particularly going to be a specific role that says, oh, I'm a scientist and I sit off and I do research and after 4 years I'll come up with a new way of doing jump travel or something like that, because that sort of is too much of a nebulous gameplay path or module, because you really need to be doing stuff all the time. And you know, right now, at least anyway, we don't have any plan to sort of have a sort of science role you can do where you do experiments every day, and after a while you do something and you get a breakthrough, and just like an explorer can find a jump point, you find a new piece of tech. You know, I think that longer term we'll probably have things that will sort of decide that, okay, well, this is a technology we're going to put in the world now, and we'll find a way to get that technology into the world in sort of a fun way. So, you know, I don't know whether it's partly involving a way to get players to be able to do it, like we decide, okay, well, if you know, there's an alien, we'll put some alien artifact in, and then the first player that takes it, you know, they're going to get a reward. They take it to the UEE, you know, science base or whatever, and the UEE science base, like, you know, a few weeks later announces that they figured out how to take that and put it onto an engine, and now there's going to be better fusion engines or whatever it would be. So there'll be ways to sort of have things that like would be technological advancements and new things we add in the game. We try to figure out a way to sort of involve players in sort of how that gets told and unfolded versus it just gets announced one day, but we haven't really sort of figured out that. And longer term, then, you know, maybe there's more of a play path for that. But sort of science in general is going to be more of a an idea or a concept, and there'll be certain actions and stuff you can do that can sort of maybe pertain to that, but it's not really a career path that anyone can sort of take as their full thing. Okay, next question comes from Blackout, who asks, is there a possibility that we get to choose our home on a planet? Let's say, for instance, that one has discovered a beautiful planet and decides that he/she wants to set up camp on that planet and live there. Can we build or buy our home/hangar and place it on a planet? We're definitely going to let you acquire real estate on planets and locations. Not sure if it's going to be on every single one. You know, at first it'll probably be on some of the more developed planets that will basically have hangars that you can buy, or maybe a penthouse apartment or something that would have a view that you could get. Longer term, we want to have the ability, I've talked about it on some of the procedural stuff we talked about, is to have some new areas and you know, planets that people discover as they push out, and then perhaps that planet is habitable, and then there's a colony settlement that starts getting placed, and you've got to fly in equipment for that, and then you'll sort of see it grow up SimCity style. And in those cases, I would think that would be an opportunity where like players could maybe, you know, have their homestead on it and stuff like that. But that's not day one. But longer term, that is definitely something I think we could grow towards, and it would be actually really quite fun. Okay, last question comes from Tomorrow, who asks, how often do you envision average players dying and being replaced by their heirs? That's a pretty open-ended question, because it's kind of hard to say how many hours do those players play. So if they're playing 1 or 2 hours, that's very different than someone plays 40 hours a week. And then also, you know, what do they do? Are they doing combat, or are they doing trading in a very safe area? So it's pretty hard without knowing sort of specifics. I would say dying and replaced by the heirs, I would not want to be a sort of very frequent event for players. So I would like, you know, people are going to get, you know, badly hurt, you know, almost killed, and then recover, you know, and then would sort of be fixed up in a hospital down on a planet. So, you know, I would say that you don't get replaced by your heir unless, you know, you've lost, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 lives, basically. And depending on what your play style could be, I think, you know, that could be something that maybe, you know, depending on your player, I mean, maybe that won't happen for a year or two for you, or, you know, maybe there'll be some players that will never have lost a player, and then there'll be some players that will, you know, lose their guy every week or every couple of weeks because they're just crazy and they're just going into like high risk areas and getting big fights and don't really care. So it's kind of hard to ask. So, I mean, in general, I don't want you to be replaced by your, I don't want it to be a frequent event. I would like your heir taking over being more like, okay, well, I've played this character role out quite a bit, and now I'm going to shift to another character role, if you're thinking in traditional MMO terms. So I would say for normal playing style, I don't think it would be a particularly, hopefully not a particularly frequent thing. So that's kind of one of the balance things we have to do. But it's so hard to give an exact timeline, because it all depends on a lot of factors. All right, that's the end of the 10 questions. I'd like to thank all the subscribers for subscribing and allowing us to do this kind of extended contact. Everyone out there in the community that's backed the game, thank you so much. We're building a game at a level of fidelity that is pretty amazing. We have a huge amount of people working on the project all around the world. We've got some we're actually having some really great new talent that's going to join, that is in the process of joining us and will join us, that we'll be able to talk more about next year, that I think you guys will all be quite impressed with. Thank you for everyone that's being kind enough to buy some cool ships during this anniversary sale, because again, that sort of helps us just dream bigger, I guess would be the way to think about it. But thank you all out there. We're working really, really hard to try and make this the best damn first-person universe ever. I look forward to talking to you next week. All right, bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.